Igor Sikorsky delivered an improved version of his VS-300 to the United States Army Air Corps. The YR-4, or Hoverfly, proved so successful during test flights that the Army ordered 100 into production.
That's a great idea, this helicopter, and it works. A craft that flies forward, backward, sideways, rises and drops like an elevator. It turns as easily as your car. The extent of its uses is boundless. Perhaps you can suggest a few more. Shoot 'em in. We'll have the helicopter pick 'em up.
We had to hold on to this thing to make sure that it would do what we wanted it to. You never dared let go of the controls. You never dared take your eye off the horizon, which is all you could fly by. There weren't any instruments, any flight instruments. The worst thing was learning how to hover. And learning how to hover is sort of like learning how to ride a bicycle at very slow speed. You can do it after a little practice. And what you try to do is to hold it still, and it starts to drift. There's a gust of wind or something moves you sideways, and so you correct, and zoom, off you go the other direction, and then you come back. And we used to see this very dangerous being on the flight strip during those days, because these things would be zooming all over the place. People, the pilots, or the student pilots, overcorrecting.
Early in 1944, Harman and 3 other pilots shipped out with their R-4s to join General Wingate's commandos fighting the Japanese in Burma.
The helicopters arrived aboard the C-46s, and at that point, we're in 2 pieces, or 3 pieces if you count the blades. The front section, which had the cockpit and the engine in it, and the rear section, which was the long tail, which housed the tail rotor. And that had to be unloaded and carted to the engineering area and reconstituted as a flying helicopter. So we all pitched in, put them together, and test hopped them.
By April, the helicopter was ready for combat.
So Wingate, who was in charge of this long-range penetration, it was his baby, wanted air support. He wanted to get his casualties out by air.
The small L-1 and L-5 cargo planes could carry Wingate's wounded fighters to safety only from rough airfields cut from the jungle. Many men perished before they could be brought out of the jungle to these waiting airplanes. On April 21st, when an L-1 loaded with 3 wounded soldiers and piloted by Ed Murphy Ladovchik crashed in the middle of Japanese-held territory, Wingate called for a helicopter to rescue these men. Immediately, Carter Harman wrestled his fragile R-4 unarmed deep into Burma to bring out the surrounded survivors.
After a while, I turned up there. So I landed, Murphy came rushing out, yanks open the door, and he says, "You look like an angel." And that surprised me. I mean, I knew that he wanted to get out of there, and I knew that I was going to take him out, probably. But I was surprised that he felt so strongly about it. I didn't feel strongly. I felt that I was just going to do that, and I wanted to get it done. More than anything else, I wanted to just get it done. I didn't feel that I was making history or that I had risked my life. I didn't feel that. But it felt, you know, that I was part of the whole sequence of events, with Sikorsky thinking this is a good machine for rescuing people. And I went ahead and I showed that it could be done in his machine. I mean, people say, would I do the same thing again? And I certainly wouldn't, because I know too much now. And when you're in your 20s, you think you're going to live forever. You just can't imagine being splashed all over the tarmac or shot in the ass or something. One of these things. You don't know enough to get scared, I think.